So the front lever is one of the 4 calisthenics staples that I think if you train calisthenics, you're gonna have to wanna learn it. And thankfully, it's not as hard as the planche, and it is definitely a skill that you can get in a reasonable time frame. Especially if you have some good solid strength, you can well and truly get this in 60 days. I've had many clients do the exact same thing, and I've coached many clients even from a ground absolute zero to get the front lever, and I'm gonna explain everything you need to know and condense it down into a super quick video you can start actionably do and implement into your training. We're gonna talk about the right engagement, the right exercises, and the right scheduling that's going to get you that front lever. So let's get into it. So I believe there are 3 levels we want to work through when we're building up that front lever. The very first level that we'll start with is obviously the foundation level. So this is where we're obviously still trying to build up our pull-up, try and get to a point where you're getting 10 plus pull-ups. I'm sure you're probably sick of hearing that, but that is the foundation level. If you can start incorporating some weighted pull-ups throughout this phase 2, absolutely all for it too. But here, we're wanting to also still train that front lever. So we wanted to introduce the right engagement, learn how to get those abs correctly engaged, the core correctly engaged, and achieve that nice shoulder and hip height. And how we're learning that is through a tuck front lever. So what you want to try and be able to do is lock out those elbows, lift yourself up, tuck one knee as close as you can into your chest, lift yourself up, and try and hold that tuck front lever. If you find yourself just dropping straight down, what you can do is lift a little bit higher to make it a little bit easier. And the more horizontal you get in terms of your hips in line with the shoulders, that is the goal. If you're really struggling with this, and by all means, some of you, I'm sure you will be, what you can do is a banded tucked front lever. So a moderate or light band will definitely work pretty well. And all we want to do is wrap it around, not our hips, not through there, but to in our lower back, holding it relatively close. You can see I'm kind of looping it around and then holding that bar there. So loop it around there, nice and strong, hand shoulder width apart, locking out the elbows, and then lifting up into that position. So what we want to try and do here, and what the goal is obviously get about a 10-second tuck plant. If you can get a 10-second tuck plant throughout this phase, what we want to try and do now is slowly over time, get to a point where we can hold obviously that tucked, but then start lengthening our knees closer to an advanced tucked. So you can see here, my knees are over my hips. What this is going to do is really teach that nice straight back and proper ab engagement. When we're working through this now as well, this is where we have to start really thinking about our shoulder engagement. With our shoulder engagement, what we want to be doing is not shrugged, shoulders aren't forward, but what everyone gets this wrong, shoulders aren't completely back either. You want to think about bringing the shoulders back, but not all the way. So you actually want to be in a bit of a neutral position. So all we want is a nice straight back. That is the end goal. So nice neutral position, but also shoulders down. That is the best way to go about it. Some people also externally rotate, so they go out like that. It's actually gonna kind of reduce the leverage that you have with your lats, so it's actually gonna make you a little bit weaker. You're actually better off doing shoulders down, slightly back but neutral, and actually so rotate them in a little bit. That's the best way to go about it. So you wanna think about kind of like bringing your armpits just slightly in toward you. So like your arms in toward your armpits. That's actually gonna be the strongest position for that front lever, especially when you start doing later exercises. It's gonna help you a lot. So another exercise in this foundation level that I do recommend incorporating in your training is hanging leg raises. And this is gonna help really teach that core engagement and hip compression that does have an element in the front lever. And I do think it's just a staple foundation exercise along with pull-ups, obviously, to build up. And if you can build up to a nice 10 repetition hanging leg raise, straight legs, pointed out toes, that's your goal. Obviously, to start with, you might be just doing simple knee raises, but over time, just slowly straighten those legs out until you can really rep them out with nice straight legs. So this foundation level, the goal is to try and aim toward a 10-second advanced tuck, obviously with our knees over the top of our hips and curling at the ankles. And we also want to have that nice straight line and that engagement that we talked about in terms of our shoulders. We also want to be able to do 10 pull-ups, and you also want to be able to do 10 hanging leg raises. If you can tick all those 3 off, I promise you that front lever is so much closer and we can move on to the next step. All I recommend though is training those 3 exercises 2 or even 3 times a week and making sure you're prioritizing at the start of those sessions. Alrighty, so this is the stage 2 and what I'm calling the advancing level. And this is where we want to heavily prioritize that front lever 3, even pushing up to 4 times a week. And we'll talk about the exercise selection that we're going to be working through. But here we want to try and obviously work toward that front lever as quickly as we can now that we have a really solid strength foundation. And how we'll do that, we'll be progressing through 3 different exercises and also some optional ones that you can throw in, but 3 absolute top priority. And the goal of these is to build up that straight arm front lever strength. That is the goal. So a straight arm lat strength. This is what all those exercises are going to do. The very first one, which I'm sure all of you guys know, but I'll tell you the best ways to go about it and to continue building strength with it. What we're doing here are front lever attempts, but we're going to be working through the progressions. So the first one, obviously at this stage, you're probably going to have an advanced tuck planche. So the next progression that we're working through is we're trying to get toward more of a quarter lay position and holding that for as long as you can. And once your hips start to drop, stop the set. Doesn't always have to be perfect, but the first couple seconds, you definitely want to be strong enough to hold your hips and hold good line. For the last few seconds, if you do notice you start to do a negative, that is okay. We're not trying to achieve Instagram worthy kind of form here. We do want to start in good form, but then if you start to drop, that's okay. We're really trying to get as much strength out of each set as we possibly can. I want you guys to aim for a 4 to 7 second hold with the hardest possible variation that you can. And what the goal is to get our knees as far close to a half lay as we possibly can. So there's a progression from advanced tuck all the way down to a half lay. Try and push your knees as far down as you can. So you might be at a quarter lay, you might be at some variation between the advanced tuck and half lay, but keep pushing those knees as far as you can. And I do recommend recording yourself to see how far those knees go and see how good your form is as well, because it might be really, really shit worse. So the second exercise in this stage, we're building up our raises now. And I believe the easiest raise that I'm sure most of you guys should be able to do if you have a 10-second advanced tuck is an inverted deadlift. So what you want to make sure you're doing is starting in the horizontal position, raising up super quickly, controlling it down relatively, not slow, but controlled. Raise up, bring it down. Raise up, bring it down. Making sure for all of these raises, that's obviously the first variation, but your hips always go back into the normal alignment. Don't drop further down, don't go too high. Really make sure you're building up that horizontal line, because we want to be building up our strength in that horizontal position, and then raise up. And then from there, you want to try and progress through those same variations we just did with the other hold. So you want to go from an advanced tuck closer to a quarter lay and then closer to a half lay. That is the goal within this position. So the third exercise that you need to be prioritizing in this stage is actually banded front levers. And I want you to use any band that's going to allow you to get somewhere between that 6 to 8, maybe 6 to 10 second hold range. So working a little bit higher here, and we're also not pushing complete failure. Still training at high intensity, but once your form starts to drop, that's generally an indication that you're probably pushing it a little bit too hard, so you can stop that set. But what we want to make sure we're doing here is achieving really nice form. So here, now we're trying to actually build that proper nice front lever alignment. What I want you guys to do is obviously use that band. You can also change the intensity by only looping half around rather than both of them. So that's another way to monitor the progression. But hold it nice and high there, loop it around. Same technique that you've been doing with all of the variations, but now what we're focusing on doing is more of that hip line. So I want you to get into that tuck position, press out into that front lever, and hold that position as best as you can. What we're doing here now is really thinking about hip and lower back alignment. So you really want to try and focus on engaging your lower back, and also imagining you're like at the top of a hip thrust. So you're really squeezing your glutes to get the hips up as nice as you can. You can see the difference between this front lever and this front lever, and the only difference is that lower back and glute engagement. So really focusing on that. And the same position in terms of your shoulders, we're still thinking about retracting our shoulders back into neutral, shoulders down, and a little bit of rotation inwards. That's a perfect looking front lever. In terms of your feet position as well, highly ambiguous. I think do whatever you feel is better. Some people say plantar flexion. Some people say dorsiflexion toward you. I personally believe plantar flexion looks better, so I do that. And I also think in calisthenics, you plant your toes with everything you do. Why should you start kind of flexing them towards you only for a front lever? Some people say the engagement is better when you dorsiflex because it activates your front of your calf and then it helps with your glute engagement. I think that's horseshit. I think your body adapts very well to whatever you do. I say plantar flexion, but do what you want. So they're the 3 main exercises in this phase. There are some variations that you can do that I do think also help as well. Banded front lever raises is something you can add to the arsenal. And I think it's a great way to kind of continue building up that strength alignment with the raise too. Some other variation as well. So you're not only having to do quarter lays and half lays. I think that's important as well. And you can also start to incorporate some tucked front lever pull-ups here too. Really, really good exercise. Great way to continue building up that overall strength conditioning as well. And it could help get that last little push for that front lever. The goal of this phase is to get you a half lay. You want to get around that 3, 4, 5 second half lay. Once you're there, that front lever is inches away. And at this position, you're at a very, very advanced level, and we can start moving on to that next stage. In this third phase now, we're talking about the attempts. So you've built up so much strength and conditioning now with all of those training. What we want to do now is shift all of that volume you've built up and all the strength into some high intensity attempt efforts. And what I want you to do now, we're still training all of those 3 variations. We're still doing those holds, we're still doing the raises, and we're still doing bands. But what we're doing now is everything in a full front lever. This is the goal. So we're doing front lever attempts, we're doing front lever raise attempts, and with our banded front levers, we're doing banded front lever raises. They're the 3 exercises that I think are going to get you so close to that front lever, as we're really getting that nervous system firing now to get you so close to it. It's gonna really push those efforts. This stage, honestly, I would probably follow this for a 4 to 6 week training block at the most, and I really do think you'll get a 3 to 5 second front lever in this phase. Absolutely, maybe even more depending where your strength was at. So if you're at this stage of doing attempts and it's just too hard for you, the front lever is just so far away, you're only really getting like a 1 second just straight and drop, then you need to keep building the halfway. Maybe build up the halfway a little bit closer to like 5, 6, 7 seconds with clean form, then introduce this block. Then when you're a little bit more ready for it and stronger, you can start to incorporate it. But if you're just so far away from the attempts, you still need to kind of keep working on that advancing block. This is something that's kind of just gonna really kind of give you that last quick push, and when you're ready for it, only when you're ready. So this is the front lever summed up. You can see the 3 stages here, working through this at the right rate, making sure you are ready for the attempt phase when you are ready. As I said, this is going to be a huge game changer for you, but I do think getting guidance is gonna help you there. I've got a coaching community. You can get personalized programs and coaching for me to just literally fast track your way to that journey. So if you want that, click the link below. I promise you it'll save you a lifetime. Either way, follow me on Instagram. Hope you really got a lot out of this video. Let's get that front lever. Woohoo! Let's go.